a small bit mental. I met my love in a loony bin. She's wired to the fucking moon. She told me she was Monica Lewinsky's twin. She's wired to the fucking moon. Oh, we went walking in the local park. She's wired to the fucking moon. She ran after a frisbee and she started to bark. She's wired to the fucking moon. 2, 3. Oh, she likes me. Oh, it's my gravy. Oh, my gravy. Oh. She told me she was studying philosophy down in Dublin University. She wants to be a communist and live on farm, still be living off the state for free. Oh, she likes me. Oh, it's my gravy. Oh, my gravy. Oh. I asked her if she felt alone like me. She was deep in conversation with a JCB. I shook her on the shoulders and I told her I loved her, but she's wired to the fucking moon. Oh yeah, she's wired to the fucking moon. 2, 3, 4. Oh, she likes me. Oh, it's my gravy. Oh, my gravy. Oh, Sean McGee. Keep going. Old school. Na 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 na. Baby, give it up, give it up. Baby, give it up. Na 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 na. Baby, give it up, give it up. You sing it. Na 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 na. Baby, give it up, give it up. Baby, give it up. Na 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 na. Well, come give it up, give it up. Baby, give it up. Whoa, she's in the army. Whoa, I'm on the baby. Whoa, let's have a baby. Whoa. I met my love in a loony bin. She's wired to the fucking moon. I met my love in a loony bin. Yeah! Huh. Wired to the moon. Sponsored by Jägermeister. Yes.
Okay, so first on to our first guest then on the MacCast, and I'm absolutely delighted to welcome two fellow Donegal men, one of my own townies from Kilcar, and another man from Lifford. Both have worn the county jersey with great honour and great pride, both on the national and international stages. Two very accomplished musicians, songwriters, singers, the whole lot. So without further ado, I'll welcome Rory Gallagher and Mickey Joe Hart. You're very welcome, lads.
Thank you, thank you.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming in on this first MacCast. I'm a wee bit nervous, guys, and but sure you'll help me out and you'll help me through as we go. It's just a friendly chat anyway.
That's all right.
It's the future.
It's all good. It's all good.
All good. We got through the technical difficulties there at the start as well. We had a little bit of a problem with Zoom and whatever, but we finally got
It was my fault. That was my fault.
As Rory was saying, this is what we're going to have to get used to for the next couple of years anyway, I think, because it's going to be Zooms and whatever else, you know.
There'll be a lot of this.
Yeah. I was even noticing the other day you can get married on Zoom now, or you can get divorced as well. This has happened, and you can even get dumped on Zoom if you're in a
Jeez,
relationship.
that's all right. Don't tell the wife, for God's sake.
Yeah. I think they're calling it zumped, Mickey. So if she dumps you, you've been zumped. So,
I've been zumped a few times, all right.
hopefully
Not online.
hopefully not tonight. So this is the future, my friend. This is what's happening. Come here. Look, tell me what's going on for you, lads. How are you coping with it's all over the news anyway, COVID and coronavirus and stuff, and we're probably all sick of listening to it. But how are you coping with it, lads, and what's going on for you?
Go ahead, Rory.
Oh, I was going to let you go. I know I wasn't coping with it for a few weeks. I was in panic mode. I even went for an Amazon driving job because I kind of realized pretty quickly that the music business was in real trouble because they'll be able to open up factories and social distance and blah blah, but we rely so much on the animal of a live room, sweat, and the more people the better, that kind of thing, and that's going to be the last thing to get corrected, so I just kind of straight away had a wee bit of a panic and went right. So I went into Glasgow to a big centre for driving transit vans, and I actually got through to the next level and everything for Amazon driving deliveries and this kind of thing. But then I kind of seen that some people were doing tip jar Facebook gigs, so I thought something, I'll try that. So I gave one of them a go, and it went great, and I kind of realized, and it has been a little bit less every week. So I had to get the brain ticking again, but realized that this, as you're saying, Mac, this online animal is a whole new thing, in the future. So I started doing Zoom gigs, like Zoom party gigs, like be it hen parties or birthday parties, and I was just like, very basic, €50 for half an hour type thing, and there might be 10 other chat rooms, and I would go on and sing a load of songs, and and just have a great crack, really, and it's been great. Some days I've had like 4 or 5 of them, so that's about just hanging in there at the minute, to be honest.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, I've been joining in on your Sunday night ones, and they've been always pretty good and lively and whatever else. And Mickey Joe, you're on daytime. You're the lunchtime show. I'll be checking in with you in odd time as well, just keeping an eye on you.
It's gonna hit Rory soon enough. Another few years of fatherhood, and he'll start doing the midday ones. So. It's the only chance you get. But no, I tell you, I was in Australia just right up to before I came back on the 18th of March, and they were starting to close down everywhere. We were lucky enough; we came through via Dubai airport, and it was getting pretty serious, at that stage. So I was just kind of glad to get back home. And when I did get home, I realized very quickly, like Rory, that let's try and figure out a way through this. And I decided to start just doing live sessions at 12:30. I had done a few TV things prior to that, TV3, and a few things like that, and I sort of mentioned it in Highland Radio and a few things, and then I sort of had committed myself. And so I came sort of a week after I came back from Australia, I think it started on the Wednesday after, so it was just mid-March kind of kicked in, or just after that, about maybe the 20th of March, I'm going to kick in doing those. And I started committed to Monday to Friday at 12:30 for half hour, or sometimes a bit longer. And so I did that up until last week, and then I was getting a bit, even for myself, a bit much every day, and things kind of, I suppose, loosened up a little bit. People aren't as reliant as they were on us trying to pick them up a little bit and give them a little bit of entertainment. So I'm doing it now on a Friday. I've just picked out the Friday at 12:30, and so this is last week. Do that again this week. So that's kind of where it's at for me. But I've been doing really busy, just doing a lot of online stuff, a lot of requests for like things like this podcast, and I did a duet thing with the two Johnnies that went really well. They're a comedy act from down the country, and it was a bit of fun, a bit of a party on a mysterious girl with We've Got the World, and so we got a traction with that. And then I also do voice stuff for Strictly in Germany, which is it's called Let's Dance. It's basically for RTL, and so I was able to do that because I have a little setup at home where I can do pretty decent vocals with, I've got decent microphones and stuff. So with all those kind of things going on, to be honest, it felt I felt really busy for me, but so thankfully it was good. It kind of, just kept me from overthinking things, because every day I had to do something the next day. You know what I mean? So I had to prepare for something. So it was good to have to, have that, and just to have to set the alarm and get up, and do things. So that, I got as much out of it as anybody else. So that's kind of how I've survived the last few weeks or months,
Yeah. I mean, it seems like both of you have been keeping fairly busy, but I suppose the question, I was thinking as well, like for creative people and performers like yourselves who are used to playing gigs and pubs and clubs and stadiums or whatever, it must be very difficult when you don't get that feedback from a live audience, and when you're playing to a phone or to a laptop or wherever it may be. I mean, I would liken it even probably to the footballers, like to the Premiership, or playing to 70 and 80,000 people every week, and all of a sudden they're playing to empty stands and stuff. So it must be a strange feeling, that.
Oh, completely. Yeah, it's I found like the first two or three just surreal, really. You would finish a song, and even if you finish a song badly, you would be used to 3 or 4 people clapping, So, but to actually finish to silence, it was it's a weird thing. You hit the final chord, and you're like, oh, it's like back in the room, magician thing, and you're like, all right, and you're just playing to the phone. But the good thing is, you start to interact with the people. You see some of the likes and things, and people chatting and asking and throwing in their names, and it's a totally different animal. It'll never touch a live gig, I don't think.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Rory on that. It's I kind of likened it to, if I can, Rory would understand this too, is when you make that transition from playing pubs and clubs back in the day to doing theatre style events, or events where there was a listening audience, let's put it like that, and when you finish a song, you can kind of pretty much hear a pin drop, and it takes a bit of getting used to that silence, because we were conditioned, be it at festivals or gigs that we've been doing, the Faulty Towers and the House Bars and all these places around Donegal,
yes.
Where there was always constant noise, so you didn't have to be. So I remember making those transitions into theatre gigs and into sort of listening gigs, and having to deal with the silence, or knowing how to handle a silent, that after an applause where you have people just sitting there and there's silence and they're waiting for the next bit, and it takes a bit of getting used to it. It's kind of like, I like it kind of a little bit to that, so in terms of just not having that interaction or having that silence when you finish, where you have to kind of talk and be the filler. You couldn't just go over and grab a pint, and grab a drink and sort of wait and laugh about and say, oh, here's the next one. There has to be it's almost like you have to sort of it's like presenting the show, if it makes sense, more so than just a gig. It really is. It's like presenting, it's like doing a theatre gig, or it really is, which isn't a bad thing, because it keeps you going. And the other thing is, well, it's great about them is that for me, and I say, I'm not going to name drop, but I was just interacting a wee bit with Paul Brady over this period as well, a few text messages, and he just came back to me, it's important to keep match fit, and that was and just us being able to sing every day or every other day, or at these things, it keeps the voice, the muscle, alive, because if you have a few months where you're doing nothing, then you go back into gigs, that's really difficult to get back into the thing. And at least that kind of schedule that we were doing with these live things was challenging us to try new songs and try new things. It was keeping us singing, keeping us match fit, as it were,
keeping you sane probably as well, Mickey.
Yeah, exactly, and keeping the vocal cords in shape, So yeah.
I suppose it's fair to say, with the COVID-19 and stuff, there's a lot of good stuff has happened online as a result of that. In terms of, there's a lot of live streams, and some really good artists and musicians putting out live streams every night or every other night or weekends, like yourselves and stuff. Even sort of new artists who are trying to make it, and they're probably getting a larger audience for that. It's funny, I was thinking back, Paul, your dad, or Rory, Paul, put on some really good stuff this last couple of nights as well, from back in the Pluto days in the 1980s.
That's right, yeah.
And that took me right back to Finter House and the Glen Bay and stuff. It was really retro stuff, you know. Really enjoyed that as well, you know. Just Rory on just the intro there. I played "Wired to the Moon" coming in there, and it was a live version you and Sean done in Germany. You were on tour in Germany last year.
That's right.
That was, how did that tour go for you? Or
That was great. Yeah, well, it's like you know, because we're, you know, I wouldn't be that big of an act really. I would never consider a lot of the things I do. I used to tour with the Revs, you know, where we would be away maybe for 2 months, and be gigging maybe 4 nights a week. But a lot of the time now, when you know, when I'm going on a tour, it might only really be a week, you know, or 5 days. So I think we had four gigs in Germany, and we went over and we played a place called the Ratskeller. And the guy, he was a really good sound engineer, and he said, oh, I can record this for you on a Pro Tools app, you know, and you can take it home and mix it. And I was like, definitely go for it, you know. And so that's the recording you just heard. It was just off the desk, you know, and it was lovely then to go back to the studio, my father's studio, who you were just talking about, Paul and Ardra, and put it in and just, you know, turn up the you know, the bass here and there, treble, and mix around the reverb, and just came out with some really good recordings. And that's another great thing about modern world is when we do get back to record to gigging again, is you can actually record every gig now on USB multi-track, you know. So you could actually have at the end of the year, you could have like 100 different versions of each song, and you pull out the best ones, you know. So yeah, that. But myself and Sean had a great year. You know, when I'd left Lanzarote, Sean had been over in Lanzarote once or twice, Sean McGee, and I just thought he was a brilliant singer and fiddle player, guitar player, and just said, you know, when I get back, would you be interested in doing some gigs? And that's where Sean appeared. Yeah,
absolutely brilliant, Sean. Absolutely, yeah. And of course, I didn't make the Germany part of it, but I did tag along for New York for what was a really interesting weekend. Really enjoyed it, I have to say, Rory.
No, it was great. Yeah,
We
and
were well
that's the thing is, you
staffed.
know, I really, like, at the time, I remember one of the gigs. There was connections to a gig in Las Vegas. You remember that?
Yeah,
I was very nervous about it and just said, I hope that one goes well, and it did. And then we got a week. Actually, we got 2 weeks in Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas out of that one, so that was the big one. So I might have celebrated too much after that night and ruined the following night in the Bronx, but stuff happens. And that was no, but it was a great weekend. That was one of them magic weekends, actually, in New York.
it was good. Yeah, Justin Mitchell looked after us really, really well, and
He
O'Brien
did.
was there in Times Square and brought us up to the Bronx. And he just reminded me there, you know, coming out of the hotel on Saturday afternoon and out onto the New York streets, and I think I was carrying your guitar case or something, you know, and I was thinking, you know, this is the rock and roll lifestyle, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, you know, without the sex and drugs, obviously. But it was as close as I'm going to come to the rock and roll lifestyle, anyway. But it was a great weekend, and of course we were fighting in Grundy with us as well, and it was a really, really good crack. You know, really enjoyed it, and you mentioned there leaving Lanzarote. You know, that transition from Lanzarote back to Kilcar, and now you're in Scotland. How is that going for you, or how did that work out?
Yeah, well, we had like I've been in Lanzarote for about 11 years, and I was playing 6 nights a week, and sometimes I was double gigging, and it was just it was lovely, you know, but it just became such a repetitive hamster wheel of, you know, Groundhog Day, hard work, and I just decided, you know, enough's enough, going to bed at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And we had wee Aiden, and just, you know, we kind of done all we could do. And, you know, our kind of staff was getting bigger, and our winters were starting to get more quiet, because Lanzarote was doing that silly thing where it was becoming so popular that the airlines and the hotels were starting to raise the prices again. And we just said, you know something, we'll quit while we're ahead. So, and it's funny, you know, when you mentioned New York, when I was over with Justin, we were actually thinking, myself and Cara and the boys, we were going to move to New York. It was going to be either New York or Scotland. And just when I got to New York, I kind of realized, you know, something that's very heavy on the voice here as well. It's like, to stay afloat in New York City, I would need to be gigging again 6 nights a week, you know, 4 hours a night. And it's just said, you know, something, we'll try Scotland first.
Okay.
And yeah, so maybe lucky out. I know there's no good places during a pandemic, but Scotland's worked out quite well so far. So
It's probably a lot safer at the minute than New York City, anyway, I would
I
imagine.
think so, yeah, and not so far away from everybody, you know.
No, not so far away from anybody. you were saying, Mickey, as well. You've toured a bit. You toured extensively, I suppose, over the years as well, and you've recorded abroad as well. I think you recorded in Germany. You've recorded in the States as well, I think. I suppose this is a downside now of the pandemic, that you can't really get to tour, I suppose, as much, and you're stuck in Strabane or Lifford or wherever it is you're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Listen, you know, I've kind of taken it that it's kind of time to reevaluate a lot of things and just let the dust settle. I don't want to say I've enjoyed the process of this, but it has definitely allowed me to do things and allowed me to look at things that I you know, sometimes when you're in the middle of doing, you know, what we do as musicians and stuff, you get so the momentum sort of, you know, of what you're doing, you know, this, you know, it's recording, writing, you know, gigging, you know, you're just going on to the next thing. You never really sometimes never get a chance to actually sort of sit back, evaluate where you are, as you know, where your career is. And so I've kind of enjoyed, if I can be as, you know, cheeky to say, I've kind of enjoyed the process of that, if you know what I mean, haven't been forced to sort of do that in a way. So for me, it's not all bad, for sure. But yeah, what I do miss is like absolutely being able to, you know, jump on a plane and go to Germany and do the things that I really love doing, and, you know, writing and being in the studio and recording. And, you know, I had 2 different projects that I was kind of, we're in the middle of setting out. We've done a lot of pre-production, and that is, you know, kind of taking a back seat because I need to be in the studio to do those, and I need to interact with those people that are involved to do those properly, you know. So I'm able to do a lot of kind of pre-production here, and, you know, there's just things you can't do. But I've got, you know, I miss that. You know, you just miss that interaction, the interaction of a live audience and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, you have to try and make the best of it, and there are so many other little good things, and personally that I've gotten out of it. You know, just on a human level, and on just a level of being able to sort of let the dust settle on a few things and evaluate things and see where I am, and pick. You know, I know I'm fairly sure about what the next project is now, and where I'm going to go, how the year or whatever the next, you know, year, 18 months is kind of going to look like, you know. So so that's been a positive, you know.
Brilliant.
Yeah, a thing, if you don't mind me jumping across, Martin, is a thing I noticed when I was traveling around with Mickey is that I think I don't know, would it be right in saying, have you finally realised that, you know, everybody in Ireland knows your name, you know? I don't know, had you kind of taken that for granted, you know? And, you know, you're getting so much TV and radio work out of this pandemic break, you know, that maybe as you say, your brain could be taken in another direction, because it's one of those great things that, like, where for like a community to be as big as Ireland, to all know who you are, you know. And I always thought that, like, not that you weren't capitalizing on it, but do you know what I mean? Remember what I was saying to you in the car when we were driving around? It's like, you know, that you should have your own show.
I mean,
you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's I mean, it is a wee bit easier sometimes when you know, it helps in some ways, and sometimes maybe it, you know, doesn't help. I mean, it depends, you know, what preconceptions people have of you, you know, when you're in particular when you're trying to send out new music or get new things over the line with people, and that can be quite difficult, because for me, it sometimes always comes back to, we've got the world and the Eurovision, and a lot of people have lost touch with me, although they might know who I am, or they might have come and, you know, lost touch with what I do or what I've done. You know, I've done 4 albums since, since we've done We've Got the World thing, but you know, and here and one in America and one in Germany, and, you know, different places. So yeah, I probably, you know, it's a reminder when I travel, when we go around and do these radio shows, and, you know, we had a great fun in December, myself and yourself, just going around, you know, Galway Bay FM and iRadio and all these places, and having a ball. It's kind of a couple of days of just craziness, and kind of, you know, because we had the single out. It was wonderfully well received, and that's it's just so nice when something's received well, because you can put out a lot of stuff, as you know, Rory, and you've been putting out stuff, and the next thing, you know, it never really lands anywhere. But when a single or something resonates with people and it lands, and you start getting nice feedback, and radio stations like iRadio and Today FMs or whatever are playlisting it or whatever, and the local stations want you to come in and talk about it. You've something that that people want, and that's just. But so it all comes out. So I don't really know where personally where I'm with people who know my name, and that's quite nice in a way. Yeah, that at least you don't have to make that initial introduction. At least they have it might get you. They might actually just listen to it because they're just curious to see what you're at. They might not like it, but at least if they get 100 things that week and one of them's mine, well, they say, "Oh, Jesus, that's okay. Let's have a look and see what Mickey Joe's doing." So it might have that opportunity of just getting it listened to, but it doesn't mean that they're going to like it or make it any easier. But so yeah, there's the positive to it, and I just people say to me, "Oh, the Eurovision was a double-edged sword, was it bad for you?" And I would never ever look at it as a negative. It's been really positive for me, and I get to do so many fantastic things on the back of that, and so I try and take it as it comes, and I don't get too obsessed anymore or too caught up in that thing because you're only as good as your last recording, really.
Eurovision Go, that was back in 2003, was it, Mickey? I think it was in
2003, yeah, Latvia, yeah.
Yeah, I suppose you're probably kind of, it's almost typecast. Maybe you're kind of remembered for that, but obviously you're there's a whole lot more about you in terms of your original music and stuff. And I've been listening to probably some of the stuff over the last week or two, and I like it, and there's a few tracks that I've mentioned to you that I particularly like. I wanted to ask you about your because I think you're talking about, or maybe you have recorded already, Luca's version, Luca's City of Chicago. Where did that come from, or why did you decide to do that?
Funny enough, it's a song that I just love. My brother had the Christy Moore, the Right On album, which was Christy made that song famous. It was written by Barry Moore, Luca Bloom. Yeah. So it was Christy's version, and that I always kind of copied or emulated in live gigs. And when I'm doing, my own set, there'll be a lot of my music in it, and every so often, I have maybe, every so often I have interpretations or songs that it covers that we cover, and we'll do that myself and Roy. We all kind of dabble in that a bit. Sometimes it depends what the gig is. Some you use, you'll have more covers than others, but City of Chicago always seems to be one that I have in the set a lot, and I just do me. I think it means a lot to me, I really, really like it. And I was doing it as part of the set in Germany, and when we were recording, the producer said to me after he came to a few of the gigs, we were doing the gigs over there, and he said, what's the folk song that you did? You talked about the famine in Ireland, and I said, and he said, you have to record that. We have to record it. So I haven't recorded, but we haven't released it. So I have a version of it done. So we but haven't got around to releasing it, and we're thinking about maybe doing a video and a concept video for it. So but I love doing it. So it seems to just get a lovely reaction, and it doesn't really matter where I play it. It's one of those songs that gets a nice reaction in Germany or America or France or wherever you may be, or in Donegal. It just has a resonance with people. It seems to have a kind of a deep kind of sense of yearning in it or something. There's a real it's a real
it's almost like a Donegal anthem, really, isn't it, as well? But I sourced it on YouTube, and the Germany one, and it sounds really, really good. I like the version very much. You mentioned as well, you both collaborated over the Christmas last year, and you brought out the single. I think it was Yazoo, was it, Rory, that had the original Only You?
That's right.
You've done that for a very good cause as well, Peter McVerry Trust, I think. So I remember getting along to, I think it was Ballyshannon as well, to one of the gigs to you as well, over the Christmas as well, and it was good old banter as well. Rory, I suppose you're probably maybe best known for what? Tell Me the Revs, I suppose, and maybe Jimmy's Winning Matches. I suppose that would be your Eurovision number one, would it? I think.
I suppose, yeah. No, I think, that would be about it. There's not much more I can say to that. You're right, yeah. Hang on.
So that's you know, it was, I mean, obviously a catchy tune at the time as well when the All Ireland was won. And Mickey Joe, you were in Croke Park as well. I think one of the days for the semi final. I think you were singing at halftime against Cork, if I remember rightly. That'd be
that's to 2014. As far as 2012, maybe was it 2012?
2012,
Sorry.
Yeah,
because that's 2012. Sorry, yeah, because John Condren, who I just had the Forward to Reality out, we recorded that in Chicago, and the producer was over. He came to tour the gigs with us as well, because we had 3 or 4 weeks of gigs here in Ireland, and he came over because he had played a lot on the album as well as producing it, and. So he came in, but I managed to get himself and myself a ticket on the morning of the match. This was the final. On the semi-final, we were doing. This was obviously previous to all this in the summer, the Cork game, and we got the slot to do the halftime, music at it. So that was really nice. But then the few weeks later, or a month later, whatever it was, the final. I kind of was able to flag my way right up to Croke Park in terms of parking. So because they thought I was coming in to sing again for the final, I never told anybody. But John thought it was really funny because he was in the car and all the guards kept waving me on. He said, "Geez, they really know you?" I said, "Well, it's only because I was here for the semi-final, and they think I'm back to sing at the final." And of course, I just said, "Yeah, I'm coming in. Yeah, I have to sing today or do something."
I can't believe that, Mickey.
That's a fact, honestly. You can ask John Condren, so he couldn't believe it. And we got the park under Croke Park on the right end because So, but those things are nice. Can I just refer? I know I just would like to kind of touch base in terms of myself and Rory's kind of history and in terms of the Revs. And Rory's what he brings to the table, and it's like for myself, we've got the world is sort of my calling card, and Rory's is the Revs, and Jimmy's winning matches, but there's so much more to him. He's so multi-talented and so many layers to him in terms of like producing and recording and the ability as a musician to play and stuff like that. And it was just when. After I had done the Eurovision, done the album for Sony, we set up my own label. Then we left Sony, I set up my own label, and I got Rory to co-produce the Live and Learn album, which was the first album I'd done on my own label, and it was just I really wanted that buzz that Rory, that energy that Rory can bring, and the Revs were bringing, and we ended up. Rory played, I don't know, probably about 90% of the instruments in that album, and all the other stuff. All I that was brought in the songs and sort of said, "Here's the song," and it sort of struck me. I was very disappointed when the Revs broke up, because I felt they were on the cusp of something really huge, because the album they'd done in Malmo with the guys in the Cardigans, the Malmo wasn't the Cardigans guys.
That's right, yeah.
It was an incredible album, and it was way ahead of anything that you had done before. It was just an incredibly good pop rock album, and it's unfortunate that album never got really to see the light of day in terms of Irish and international airplay, because I think there were some cracker songs on there, and if there's anybody listening, go out and check that album out if you can. But Rory is just he's so multi-talented, and so many layers to him, and brings so much in terms of recording, and when you get him in a situation where you're working with him, and we had that period earlier on sort of in our lives, and then Rory went off and I was off doing the thing, and it's just been a pleasure. We met in 2013 for a gathering initiative, a song that myself and John Condren wrote with Paul Brady and a few Donegal people. Rory threw in from Lanzarote to help us out and played a lot on the recording with that as well. And then to meet up again at Christmas with him, it was just it was fantastic for me to sort of get a little bit of a full circle, and then the reaction that we got from the single. And that's in no small part to Rory's kind of genius, and it really is. He's
I hear.
He undersells himself, really does, But we all know what he brings to the table, and it's. I hope he continues to do that and doesn't fake off to Lanzarote again anytime soon.
So
He has to stick around.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good. Thinking of, we were just talking about maybe singing a song. Maybe it's time to bring in a track. Maybe and I don't know which you want to go first. Rory, maybe I'll talk to you about Waterfall. Maybe.
Okay.
It's one that I'm sure you get. Well, I see probably from your from your Facebook streams. Anyway, it's one that's probably one of the most requested songs that you get, and certainly it would be very personal to a lot of people down our part of the world as well. You want to give me a wee bit of the backstory on that, maybe, and maybe we can have a listen to it.
Yeah, that song I wrote it around the time I was 18, and I wrote it around the time, about maybe a few weeks after a friend of ours from our class in Carrick Vocational School, Jonathan Bradley, he'd been on work experience over in America, and he drowned in the swimming pool. He couldn't swim, and it was late at night, fell in, there was nobody about, and just one of those unfortunate things, and unfortunate being a very, very light term. And we were devastated, and but I'd been writing, I've written probably about 600 songs in my lifetime, but that was one of the songs that came out of that period. And it's so funny, I didn't sit down and go, I'm going to write a nice tribute song to Jonathan, because probably if I did, it would have been terrible. I would have been thinking about it too much. It might have been cheesy. It might have had that kind of a fake, trying to make people cry or something. So that was just one of the songs that was around. And I remember I was playing it in the set, and it just had a nice feeling to it. And I think it might have been Deborah Gillespie from Carrick come up, and she went, "God, that song you wrote for Johnny's just lovely," And I went, "I didn't write any song for Johnny." She was like, "The one, I've got to dive into this waterfall." And I was like, "Oh my God." And it was only then I was kind of like, well, that was so obvious. It was on my mind, and probably the fact that the lyrics are kind of cloaked and, ambiguous, it makes it probably more personal to more people, where many people can take different meanings out of it. And I kind of realized that that's the secret of writing good songs, is when you don't make them so straight and narrow down the line that it can only mean one thing, apart from Jimmy's winning matches. But you know what I mean. It's like, if you can Bono was very good at that, where he can write a song like One or With or Without You, and I know Bono's quite hated at the minute, and it's quite over the top, I think, but he's a great lyricist. And Springsteen was the same, where not that I'm putting Waterfall in that category at all, because I wrote it when I was 18, but that's the thing, it's one of those songs that's just lasted the test of time, as they say. So brilliant track, and I have to say it's my favorite of your collection, and maybe we'll take a listen. You've sent me on the German version as well, from the same gig that you done for the Wired song. So let's just take a listen to it if we can.
It's original. It's called Waterfall. No one can touch me in the way that you do. Tear me apart like a paper balloon. I'm not waving out, I'm drowning. When do you know that your time has arrived? When do you sense that you won't stay alive? I'm not waving out, I'm drowning. So long I'll see you all. I got to dive into this waterfall. I'm sick of wearing this face. I'm getting so tired of this run out of place. I know I'll have more. I got to dive into this waterfall. And when the moon comes out, you won't see me waving out, waving out, waving out, waving out, waving out. Life's unpredictably spontaneous, that it can be ruined by one simple kiss. I'm not waving out, I'm drowning. I know a river that runs through your head. I know an ocean that will be my bed. I'm not waving out, I'm drowning. So long I'll see you all. I got to dive into this waterfall. I'm sick of wearing this face. I'm getting so tired of this run out of place. I know I'll have a ball. I got to dive into this waterfall. And when the moon comes out, you won't see me waving out, waving out, waving out, waving out, waving out. Oh, Sean McGee. So long I'll see you all. I've got to dive into this waterfall. Well, I'm sick of wearing this face. I'm getting so tired of this run-down place. I know I'll have a ball. I've got to dive into your waterfall. And when the moon comes out, you won't see me waving out, waving out, waving out, waving out, waving out. Oh, and you wave, you wave, you wave now.
Cool.
Okay, that was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Loved the sound and Sean at the end there as well on the fiddle, absolutely class. Mickey, again, you were talking about your sort of original music as well, and that's where I wanted to go. Rather than maybe talk about the Eurovision one or play that one, maybe play some of your stuff. And I was looking at Practical actually. I was listening to that a few times and I liked it. Do you want me to tell me a little bit about that one?
Well, again, Rory was involved in this kind of subconsciously, or I don't know what the right word is, but anyway, it's a little bit of a long story. I was kind of in the throes of writing that song. Myself and the Revs and my band and Zoe Conway at the time was a solo artist, fiddle player who's now married to one of the Revs, ironically. When we were invited out to New York in 2003 to do a benefit fundraising concert for a man who had who got very sick, and he had basically had a huge medical bills to pay. He was an Irishman, and we went out there we were going out there on the invite of the family, and unfortunately we were stopped at Shannon Airport, and we weren't allowed to travel because we just did, or something wasn't in order. We tried everything. We were initially told we were fine. There wasn't any money's been earned from this, and we were doing it all for charity. But anyway, the long and the short of it was that there was a new immigration officer in Shannon. He had just got the job, or just newly placed there that week, and some of the Irish staff were telling us that they thought he was making a statement. So there was 14 of us or something like that, or musicians and people that whatever who didn't get to travel. And unfortunately, that concert didn't take place, and it was very unfortunate because there were tickets sold through. It was a big mess. But anyway, I found myself with a week off, and I had this song that I was kind of working on, and I thought, well, let's go into the studio. I kind of rewrote a little bit of it then. I was trying to write, and I finished it off. I said, listen, I'll try and finish this off. And I dedicated a line to the immigration officer and the song as well. So I have to tell that story because people don't know what the JB references or the JD references to it. In the middle, they think I'm chatting about Jack Daniels. But there's a line in it called JD Stole My Wings. And people think it's, a reference to Jack Daniels or, something like that. But so that's I won't give you any more of his name. It was just initials. I don't want to get the guy. I don't want them after me, Anyway, that song kind of came out of that. I was working on it, and then I finished it and we demoed it in a studio in Dublin at that time. That was 2003, and I had it a long time, and I never released it or done anything with it. And then when I done the album in 2011, which was released in 2012 in Chicago, I was still on the live set. I was doing it a lot, and it was one of the ones that I ended up being on that album. So it took a little while. It was a fairly long gestation period with that song in a way. That's the backstory in a way. If anybody's interested.
Let's take a listen to it anyway, Mickey, and see what the listeners think.
Practical life, I need a practical girl, and I'm practically sound, and I'm practically cool, and I'm practically pouring my heart out to you. I've got a practical mind, and it's practically fine. I got a practical way of taking my time, and I'm practically lost when you're not around. Practically spelling it out for you now. Don't lead me up the garden path, 'cause I've been there before. Don't take me for a fool, I ask you only to be true, 'cause I'm practically in love with you. Still believe Janie stole my wings, and I'm practically finding it hard to believe that I'm practically wearing my heart on my sleeve. Don't lead me up the garden path, 'cause I've been there before. Don't take me for a fool, I ask only to be true, 'cause I'm practically in love with you. Don't lead me up to the garden path, 'cause I've been there before. Don't take me for a fool, I ask you only to be true, 'cause I'm practically in love with you. Oh, I'm practically in love with you. Yes, I'm practically in love with you. Whoa, I'm practically in love with you. Almost.
Okay, brilliant stuff. Brilliant stuff. We're getting near the end of the time, guys. Thank you for staying with me for the hour.
Not at all.
Couple of things just to finish off. Maybe I just wanted to mention John Prine, the late John Prine. I noticed both of you done sort of your own wee tributes online as well. Huge loss to the music industry. You both would have come across him, I'm sure, in your time.
Yeah.
Mickey?
Well, I was very, very blessed. I was very, very fortunate and lucky to actually be invited to John Prine's, I think it was his 54th or 53rd birthday, I can't find, in Nashville. I happened to be there and got an invite up to his house for his birthday party on that particular night. I was over there writing some songs. It's 20 years ago, I'm sure, whatever. With a few different people, I went over to write and sort of try and experience the Nashville thing and see what it was about, and try and make some contacts and inroads. And I'd use some of my Irish contacts and people who were there. And there was a guy there from Derry who's based called Tony Kerr, and I wrote a song that ended up actually subsequently on the album a few years later that I did for Sony after I got the deal with them. But anyway, he rang me up. I was in Nashville that day, and we'd done a bit of writing, and I'd been writing with other people around Nashville, as you do. Nashville's strangely because you could write with 2 or 3 different people in the one day. You can set up these meetings. Everybody's open to that kind of process, and anyway, Tony rang me up and said, Nicky, hey, listen, do you want to go to John Prine's birthday party tonight? And I said, are you joking? Because I knew Tony had been friendly with him because of the Donegal connection. I think Tony's also married to a Donegal woman. And based out there now, and I think the wives had maybe made friends, and then Tony and John became friends out of that. I'm not sure, but I think that's how it went. But anyway, I was invited up, and we just had a wonderful evening up in John Prine's house. And had a bit of marquee out the back, and there was this bluegrass band playing, and lots, as you can imagine, of amazing songwriters and people from the industry. I was just going around, just sort of pinching myself and meeting him. And funny enough, when he came back to Donegal, maybe a few months later, they were doing a gig in Donegal in the Mount Errigal, and I got a phone call out of the blue to tell me that there was 2 tickets, complimentary tickets in the front row for me at their gigs. So that was a really nice. Fiona had got in touch with me, so yeah, I'm a huge fan of John Prine's. I always was, and so was my brother. Again, he introduced me to John Prine and a few of the singers around home. And it's just, it's just a lovely treat for me to be able to sort of have that experience of him, and I was just so brokenhearted to hear that he had passed away, and these circumstances as well. He didn't deserve that. He brought so much joy and pleasure to the world, to have to go out like that. It's and not being able to share it with his family. So condolences again, and to all of the Whelan family in Donegal, and obviously Fiona and the family beyond.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can only echo that. Absolute legend. If and if that word is deserved, it's definitely deserved in his case. Fantastic. Rory, did you ever get the opportunity to meet or?
No, I put up a little thing on Facebook, where I was honest, because he was such an honest writer as well, and to say, like, when you can dedicate your life to the craft of songwriting and the love of music, and you've seen the response he got from just being so straight to the point, yet very, very deep, and I always respected that style of writing. Just absolutely fantastic. It seems simple. It's that trick that certain people can play, where it seems very simple, but then certain little turns of phrases, it's that William Butler Yeats thing where, it's 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration, and you try and make the thing as simple and seamless as possible, so it seems like it's easy. It's that Paul McCartney would be another master of that, where Hey Jude seems like a silly, easy song, but like, how the hell do you sit down and write something like that? Or Louie Louie, these little basic things are the hardest things to do, so I just kind of put it up like that, because I wasn't, I wasn't going to pretend that I was a huge fan, I was more respect than a fan thing, but like I would know his greatest hits, but I wouldn't have 10 of his albums, you know. So I didn't want to be that person that was jumping up and down like that. So I just gave him a very respectful, as you say on Facebook, respectful little comment, and yeah, that was it. But no, definitely never had the honor of meeting him. No.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, I just got lucky. I just got lucky in that one. I'll tell you, it wasn't. You know, it was, even at that stage, no one knew who I wasn't. No one even knew who I was here. So they started didn't know. I was just overdoing the thing, and it just happened to be that Tony Kerr, good friend, a guy from Derry who happened to be originally from Derry, happened to be the contact. But it's just one of those moments that you get. You know what they're like, where you end up in situations. Sometimes you just go.
Exactly.
How did it end up here? I was just lucky, and it was such a nice evening. Just I remember from ear to ear when I think about it. You know,
Mickey, I remember you were saying about weird situations. I remember ending up in a hot tub on the roof of the Wyndham Bellagio Hotel in Los Angeles on St. Patrick's Day, and we were the only Irish there. And staying up in the top level was Gary Busey and Halle Berry. And there was a couple of other rappers and a few football players and us, the Revs, you know. And we managed to get put into that hotel because there was a lawyer from Texas called Jim Zumwalt. He was trying to kind of court us at the time to sign us for the USA. And we were meant to be staying in a wee motel. And he decided, no, that's not happening. So he put us in this 5-star hotel. So there we were, as you say, you know, it's those weird things that happen when you're a musician doing your own stuff out in the road. We ended up on this rooftop and we could see the Hollywood Hills sign. We could see the Hollywood sign. We were drinking Heineken in a jacuzzi on St. Patrick's Day. And I always remember Mickey D turning around to me going, I wonder what the boys are doing back at home. And he was genuinely heartbroken that he wasn't back in Kilcar. And I was trying my hardest not to punch the face off.
You can take the man out of Carrick.
Oh no, Kilcar.
Kilcar, jeez, I better get that right. Sorry.
Come here, last question, lads. I'll throw it at both of you. The future. What's your aspirations? What's your hopes? What's your dreams? Where does it go from here?
Well, I'm hoping to become a massive superstar on Zoom. That's my. Seeing as I couldn't do it in the genuine charts.
You're big in Japan.
Yeah. Well, listen. If I can just work the bloody thing, I'll be happy. You know.
Okay. So it's just more of the same then.
One of my real hopes is to get to work with Rory again pretty soon. I really.
Well, that will happen. That will happen.
A good time.
That'll happen.
So that if we do that, I promise you, good things will come out of it. They always do.
Nice one. Listen, two absolute gentlemen. It's been a privilege spending a bit of time with you this afternoon. It's absolutely fabulous. Thanks a million for coming on and doing the first MacCast. It's been brilliant. We'll finish up maybe with the two of you. Only you, I suppose, is the way to go. So we'll play it out to that and. To all the listeners listening in, I hope you enjoyed Rory and Mickey Joe. I certainly did. And wherever you are, share it and pass it on. And do tune in again next week. Thanks, lads.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
Lovely.
From a window above, it's like a story of love. Can you hear me? I came back only yesterday, moving farther away. I want you near me, and all I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day, and all I ever knew. Only you. Sometimes when I think of her name, when it's only a game, and I need you, I listen to the words that you say. It's getting harder to stay. When I see you, all I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another day, and all I ever needed. this is gonna take a long time. I wonder what's mine. I can't take no more. I wonder if you'll understand. It's just the touch of your hand behind a closed door. And all I needed was the love you gave. All I needed for another